All right, good morning. It is October 17th, 2023, Tuesday. And we are here to do as we see fit. In this case, some sitting, some talking. I hope everyone is well. The world keeps barely spinning, or trying to spin off its axis, it would seem. But we have this practice as a refuge, and so let us enjoy that and take comfort in that. So, settling back into your meditation posture, whatever that is for you. You can close your eyes or just lower your gaze, turning the attention inward, feeling the body, how you're holding your body, the balance and alignment. Any strong sensations that bear noting. And feeling the movement of the breath in the body. And moving from the body to the more subtle felt experience, energetically, emotionally, breathing with any feelings. And just feeling the body and feelings as dynamic, energetic experiences. It's easy to fall into the mistake of seeing our present state as something solid or static. But as we tune in more carefully, more subtly, we see that there is constant movement, constant change. Well, this can have a certain disturbing effect on the mind. We cultivate an attitude of receptivity, of connecting with that energetic flow. And letting the attention then gather around the sensations of breath, the movements of breath. Letting the breath come into the foreground of awareness. You might feel the breath at the nostrils, that touch of air moving in and out, or feel it in the belly as movement rising, falling. It's natural for the mind to wander, to generate thoughts, even as we try to pay attention to the breath. So our practice is to return to keep coming back to the breath, not in any kind of anxious way or grasping way, but in a flow, a natural rhythm. The mind wanders, it swings one way, and then it swings back. We breathe in, we breathe out. And there's a natural settling that happens as we keep referring back to the breath, back to the body, back to the felt experience. right. Well, it does seem as if we've lost a few folks since we changed over to the new Zoom link, which is unfortunate. I regret my own errors in that regard. I may try to put something on my website to help people. Yeah, so it's an interesting time for me, approaching a 6-week retreat. And really kind of not feeling like a teacher very much, not a lot sort of showing up in my mind for teaching purposes. And in some ways, it feels as if I'm already withdrawing from the world, losing interest in the world. And I was thinking about how I can relate the mind state of going on a retreat to recovery, and that there's a certain that sort of stepping into the unknown when we're when you have the idea of like, oh, I'm going to stop drinking, or I'm going to stop using, and like, who am I going to be? And I think it, that's the real fear is feeling our feelings. You see these, the typical line you hear in a TV show is, "I need a drink." I'm sure many of us have said that as well. And and what does that mean? I think what it means is I can't really handle what I'm feeling right now. I need to alter it with alcohol. And so going on retreat is like giving up all of the things that we need to help us to not constantly be aware of our feelings, and it just points up like it's a further letting go, right? Because sobriety is this huge step into letting go, and retreat practice is a further letting go of entertainment, letting go of society, of relationships, of control over your circumstances, where you sleep, what you eat, your daily schedule. And of course, this is what the Buddha is teaching, is letting go, the Four Noble Truths, the perennial topic, suffering caused by clinging. It ends when we let go and we stop clinging. And there's a process by which you develop the capacity to let go, and that's the Eightfold Path. And so retreat is a kind of intensive form of letting go, an intensive form of practicing the Eightfold Path. It's taking on the things that the Buddha says will incline us towards awakening. That we need to first of all, follow the precepts, and we need a community of like-minded and wise, caring people. And we need to hear the Dharma. Of course, that's the one source of input that you get on a retreat is teachings, Dharma teachings. And then we need to cultivate mindfulness and concentration loving kindness and compassion. And again, this is what we're doing in our meditation practice. In any meditation, but on retreat, this becomes your main task of each day is to cultivate those qualities in that context, in that container, that supportive container. And I know many of you, since I recognize many of you, have been on retreats and have had these experiences, and you know what I'm talking about, that it's a really distinct experience, unlike anything else. I just don't think it's comparable to any other human experience. Yes, we can kind of draw these parallels with recovery, but in terms of what happens to the mind, to the heart and mind, the training, it's like, Olympic training for a meditator. You don't compare an Olympic athlete to somebody who jogs once or twice a week. It's just not the same thing. And that training is very intense and quite brings about certainly mind states that are virtually unknown to us. They are things that we might taste for a moment. Over the course of a lifetime, we might have some sudden moment of awakening or spiritual connection, but nothing's as sustained as retreat. And in terms of the cognitive shifts and insights, perhaps some people can get this through plant medicine and psychedelics, but not really, in my mind, having the same kind of depth of transformative impact, nor something that can be carried into our lives. I will say that what I think what draws many of us on retreats is the pleasurable mind state, the depth of peace and joy that comes through the cultivation of samadhi. And that tends to grab the attention when you experience that. And given that you are in a situation where there's very little sense pleasure happening, very little, besides sort of ordinary things like eating and walking, which, are lovely, but there's, I should put it a different way. There's very little stimulation. And when we experience a highly pleasurable meditative state, this can take kind of center stage in our mind in terms of why we're there. And this can become the thing that we start chasing and the thing that we value and want. But it isn't the purpose of retreat. And so this is a very, I find this actually quite a challenging aspect of practice, because it takes a great deal of time and effort to cultivate these qualities of samadhi, which allow for the possibility of deeper levels of insight. But that effort can wind up consuming us to the point that we don't really find much room or energy left over for the cultivation of insight. And this is I talk about this because, particularly from, certainly my experience, this is where I feel my practice has come up short. That I think this is one of the most difficult questions, and I don't have the answer to it. And that is how to cultivate insight out of the state of samadhi, out of the state of concentration. And the text, the suttas suggest things. They tell us what to do in some kind of language. That is to say, it will say, contemplate impermanence, for instance. But this isn't exactly an instruction that is really clear, like something like pay attention to your breath. Like, that's pretty clear. Feel your breath. Okay, it's very clear what that means. But contemplate impermanence. That's how I've come to understand it, means to observe very closely the impermanent nature of all experience. Okay, there you go. But again, it doesn't necessarily sort of trigger an immediate shift in any way. It just seems to be sort of a go sit down by the river and just watch it sort of thing. And when one finds themselves in a state, this altered state that's deeply pleasurable, which there was some process by which you got there, which you can sort of understand, it can seem just not really clear how to get from there into these stages of insight. So this is Kevin sharing his own shortcomings, shall we say. I've been, actually, people will ask me, "Oh, is there something I should do to prepare for a retreat?" And I usually tell them, no, there's nothing much you can do. Pack an extra pair of underwear or something. And I do have a question, like, is one tube of toothpaste enough for 6 weeks? But these are the mysteries that shall be, more will be revealed. But I have, in recent weeks, found myself drawn to the book The Island by Ajahn Amaro and Ajahn Pasano, which is, as the subtitle says, an anthology of the Buddha's teachings on Nibbana. And Nibbana is the Pali for nirvana. So I thought, well, if I'm going to try to go get enlightened, let me read about enlightenment. So that's been interesting, enjoyable. I've read much of this before. It's quite a book. Not something that again is immediately transparent in terms of, oh, okay, this is what you're supposed to do. But there are many interesting reflections and teachings in here. One of the images that particularly stays with me is when the Buddha compares the path to the continental shelf off the coast of India. And he describes the path as gradual and then sudden. That one practices and practices and practices, and there's a gradual deepening and cultivation of insight, wisdom. and that at a certain point there is a sudden drop off into what's called sotapanna, the first stage, the initial stage of enlightenment, the stream entry, which is, as it's described, the initial counter with nirvana, which, and here we get into language which is trying to describe things that have no words, but this is the unconditioned. So everything that we ordinarily experience is conditioned. It has multiple causes that come together through dependent origination. So our thoughts, feelings, sense impressions, everything around us, all the physical world, all of these things are created, have causes. And nibbana, according to the Buddhist teachings, has no cause. And to experience it then, it's quite a question. Well, how do you experience something that has no cause? And that's kind of what this book is trying to help you to see. So our practice, in a sense, is meant to prepare us to fall off that cliff. And it's interesting. The suttas, as many of you know, are something that very interest me a lot, and many of the images and stories and people, characters are interesting. And one of the things that I find interesting is that the Buddha understood the continental shelf, that he understood that there was a gradual deepening of the ocean, and that then there was a sudden drop off. And I've never heard of any sutta where he was actually at the ocean, like on the shore, much less out sailing, that he would maybe become aware. But presumably, as an educated person at the time, people knew, right? So he understood that, but it's kind of wild. In any case, this image is kind of what that image, or just some sense of that image, of what the meaning of that image, the meaning of that image is kind of what I cling to in my own practice in terms of cultivation. And really, I don't, by and large, I don't worry about falling off that underwater cliff. I long ago made peace with my own level of insight, and certainly I've felt that that's continued to evolve. And it surprises me in some ways that not it shouldn't, but that having practiced for over 40 years and studied the Dharma for that time, that it continues to be revelatory for me. It continues to be surprising sometimes, or exciting, stimulating, when as I practice and I study. I certainly have that continuing sense of that gradual deepening, and I'll say that probably, well, I know many of you are of a certain age, as am I, and one of the real surprises for me about old age is the sense of continuing to grow on a spiritual level. Yeah, I mean, it's not a great word, spiritual, but on a dharma level, that I think that in youth, there's a tendency to look at the elders as people who have, either figured it out or haven't figured it out, but they aren't still figuring it out. But that's not the way it is. At least not for those of us who are engaged in spiritual growth. And in fact, it's quite exciting to sense that there's more to learn, and that we are learning more, that more is coming to us, that more is, becoming clear to us. And I will say that, I've never, the idea of, extending one's life has never had much appeal to me. Live forever, or, gee, wouldn't it be great if, whatever. That doesn't interest me that much. But I think the one thing that I do really value in these later years, and as I can see the end approaching, is what I do really hold on to is this continuing growth, spiritual insight, and in some ways intellectual, like, I guess what we'd more generally call wisdom, understanding the world and having more clarity about the world. And that I can see is difficult to let go of. The letting go of people, places, and things, as we say, feels like, that's not easy, but there's something sort of inevitable about it that I think particularly this practice helps us to grow toward. But letting go of the evolution, of spiritual evolution, that's difficult. That feels like a real loss. There's this sense of potential, and it's funny. I've been saying this to a little bit around my family, that there's this sort of narrative right now about that how old all the people running our government are, particularly the Senate and the president and the presidential candidates, and even the New Yorker. I don't know how many of you saw that cover of the New Yorker where they showed a bunch of these political leaders as like with walkers, and like, basically making fun of the fact that our country is run by old people. And I kind of feel like pushing back on that a little bit, that like there's a reason, from my understanding, traditional cultures turn to the elders because the elders are the ones who have seen the world and have seen life. And if they have been practicing cultivating wisdom over their lifetimes, they know more and understand more than the younger people. I mean, I hate to verge over into politics, but you guys know me enough to, sometimes it happens. It looks to me like we have a very wise president right now. I don't know, somebody who like really gets it and is like making very smart choices, and obviously deeply compassionate because he's experienced suffering, but but really a very broad view and a very evolved view. Somebody he's very clearly very different from who he was 40 years ago and 30 years ago. So I don't mind having the elders. I mean, it's just a thought. It's partly Kevin being a contrarian to the current narrative, but that is really taking us off the track enough. So to bring us back to the track and then to wrap up, I will say that in the recovery world, age is also valued. When one's period of recovery extends longer and longer, one becomes more respected in the community. And so I like to think that perhaps I have some of that respect in the world. So thank you for listening. Not exactly being a teacher today, but this is what you're getting. And I will say before, and I see you, I want to hear from you, but I will just mention that this class will continue Tuesdays and Fridays while I'm away. I have one more this Friday, and then I will be gone until December. Well, I should be on the Spirit Rock session around December 9th, 8th or 9th, and then I'll be on here on the 12th of December. But Debbie and Anne and Greg and Walt are covering most of those times, and Angela and Monica are going to maintain the hosting, and so I hope people will continue to come for your own practice, and also, partly to support each other, to support the teachers, people who are stepping up. So, Anne, hi.
Hello.
Yeah, how was your retreat?
Yeah, well,
speaking of people who were on retreat, you just were. Was it 2 weeks with Santa Cara?
It was 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll have to talk offline too. Yeah.
Hopefully, if you before you go, I don't know.
Yeah. I'll make time for that.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, it was very intense. Very intense.
Yeah.
I also think you're onto something about writing a book on Asaki.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I will say about the toothpaste.
Yeah.
A small tube of toothpaste is at 28 applications.
Okay, thank you.
That's a small tube, so you are going to need a large.
So that's like, we could say that's 2 weeks, assuming you brush your teeth twice a day.
Yeah, assuming. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Ken, when you say I'm not a good teacher today or whatever you said, I'm like, how is this not a teaching? In my mind and heart, it felt like a warm blanket, a warm, cozy sort of I don't know. It was very nice. Just thinking about, going into recovery, and that's a big leap, right? That's a big letting go. Going on a retreat, a longer retreat, especially, at least for me now, I will just say that I was faced with my deepest, like, clinging, in a sense, one of them anyway.
Mm.
And
you don't want to share which that was?
This idea, restlessness. I can't stand it. I've got to get out of here.
Yeah. Okay. I hear that.
And it came up in very interesting ways. I don't want to get into it now, but
sure.
Yeah. But I did have an experience, and I also don't want to take up too much time, but I did have an experience with craving and clinging to craving over crackers. And it's not about the cracker. Right?
Oh.
Any object of desire. And really what it comes down to for me is, it's like, what am I not willing to feel? Which is what you were talking about. And in real time, we're faced with it.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, I know I'm gonna go reach for this. I know I'm reaching for this, but I'm gonna do it anyway. But there's enough samadhi, enough concentration, enough mindfulness to kick in at just the right time if you allow it, or if conditions arise. And it is really, truly the most freeing thing. And a lot of it has stayed with me,
Mhm.
I know I'm very, very opaque, but I don't want to get it's too long. But anyway, thank you for sharing your pre-retreat experience.
How
So
was Santa Clara?
he was incredible,
Yeah.
incredible scholar.
Yeah.
He's just this guy from Chicago that became a monk and lived in Thailand for 20 years.
Yeah.
So
Got really good at Thai, apparently.
enough to translate the book.
Yeah. 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 The first time I met him, he was teaching at the Berkeley Buddhist Monastery, and and I hung around at the end of the night, so I was the last one there, and it must have been around the time of One Breath at a Time, and I told him that I worked with people in recovery, and he was still a monk then, and he said, "Oh, I'm kind of I could use that, like that 12-step approach, because I'm kind of a workaholic."
Yeah.
I was like, you're a monk and what does that mean, right? It was kind of before I knew a lot about the monastic life, how, they're, just because you put on the robes, you don't leave behind your personality and your tendencies. But it was quite striking. And then, of course, you remember that he was at the conference, the Buddhist Recovery Network conference in 2009, to give a talk on addiction to self.
Yeah, he had interviewed people in the program, or discussions around that, and that's what led to the talk. And yeah, he did the entire retreat himself. He was on all the time. He did interviews. Everyone, he got like 3 interviews. It was like his energy level,
And he's a cancer survivor.
Aggressive lymphoma.
Yeah.
Hemo, the whole deal. He's quite something else.
But he's really healthy, perfectly healthy now. Yeah.
Yeah, he taught Qigong every morning.
Jesus.
Qi and 18 movements. We did that every morning for 2 weeks, which was awesome.
God.
It's the breathing and the movement just really, really fit well with the many themes. So anyway, all right. See you around.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll be in touch. Question there. Who led the retreat? So his name is Santikaro, which is his monastic name. I'm putting it in the chat. He left the robes some years ago, and he has a center called Liberation Park, north of Chicago. You can probably find him with that amount of information. You should be able to find him very easily on the internet. Steve, hi.
Hi, Kevin. I just want to make a real quick statement. I really felt, just really inside of me, on a deep level, I could feel what you're experiencing, this detachment from your existing reality and where you're going. And I just want to say that today's teaching was wonderful. I mean, what I'm looking forward to, I'll just say this, I'm looking forward to you going on this retreat and the experience that you're going to have. I'll never be able to go on a long retreat like that. I don't have enough years left, probably, with all the things I have to do. So I think it would be really wonderful to do. But I realize that I'm going to take all my life experience, since I never really studied the Dharma over the last few years with you and with other teachers, that I can transfer all that stuff that I've learned in my life into the Dharma, and it makes a lot of sense to me now. That's why I'm studying that. So I look so forward to you getting back and sharing with all of us, because it's a big deal going away for 6 weeks. It's like detaching yourself from family, friends, and your sangha and all the people that love you and teaching us. And so, yeah, I felt it, and it was a good feeling. So enjoy your trip, and I just really look forward to hearing from you when you get back. It's going to be beautiful.
Okay, Steve, I'm not making any promises. I might just stay there. Or
Hey,
move into the woods.
I wouldn't blame you at all.
At the base of a tree. And then find an empty hut. And, all right, Abigail, hi. Okay, we'll wait.
Here we are. I'm on a new device, so I don't know where anything is.
You handled it, managed it well.
Again, one of the things that we learn in the 12-step is to teach by your own experience. And that's what you've brought to teaching the Dharma. And that's what makes you so important to me. Mm-hmm. And to, I think, many of us, is that's what touches us, is your experience relating to mine. As far as old age, I'm way in there.
Yeah.
And I am so much less wise than I was. So this I had to look it up, but here's from Bob Dylan. But I was so much older then. I'm younger than that now.
Gates of Eden.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually reading, I just started reading yesterday a book about the Highway 61 Revisited album. So yeah, Bob was on my mind. But that's wisdom, right? Realizing that you thought you knew it all and you didn't.
Nothing. I know nothing.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but I'll grant you that on a kind of existential level, let's say.
Perhaps I know that.
Right.
Thanks, Kevin. I'll be thinking about it. Nice.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Abigail. I forgot to mention, and I should have mentioned it as people are leaving, that I got the rights back to my book, A Burning Desire, because it had gone out of print. So I just put it up on, it's for sale now with a new title. It's called Buddhism, the 12 Steps, Higher Power. And yeah, I'm trying to find it online now. It should be on Amazon. Let's see. Anyway, we got it. It has a new cover, and it's let's see. Tricky trying to find books on Amazon. Let's see if we go to Kevin Griffin author, probably not going to work. Here it is. Got it. So if you're interested, and this is the Kindle version, but there's a paperback version too. I don't know if you guys have all read that book, but it is one of my better books. And it's got a beautiful, it's exactly the same text. So it's basically just the title changed and the cover changed, but the cover is really nice. Mike did a really nice job on the cover. And what was I going to say? Well, I wrote a one-page, introduction, just explaining that I changed the title. But if you haven't read that book, I hope you'll pick it up, because it is, many people say that they think it's my best book. So I don't, as with one's children, one doesn't, speak publicly about preferences regarding one's books. I love them all. And anyway, it's nice to see everyone. I also put on my website, on the front page of my website, the dates of my 2024 retreats. Most of them are not open for registration yet. The one in February in Northern California at Redwood Glen, we're going to officially open it for registration November 1st. I'll be away though. So if you, Debbie, I think is going to be handling the registration. So if you want to come on that retreat, you can email, there's an email address on the page on my website that advertises it. So for those who are interested, but the rest of them are I think pretty far from being open for registration. But I figured people like to know, because I have a bunch of retreats. I'm going to be in Alabama. I've never been to Alabama. It's only one of 2 states that I've never been in, Mississippi and Alabama. So I'm planning on finishing up my 50-state tour this summer. And then in Indiana, and then I'm teaching in Southern California with Vimalasara as well. So a lot of retreats. Anyway, thank you all for coming. I guess as a closing offering, I will just say that retreat or no retreat, we have the capacity to be present and fully present at any moment when we make that choice. So I hope you'll make that and set that intention today. So thank you.